Hello everyone, Penny here, and today in Grandma's Kitchen, we are on week 2 of this month, so it will be week 2, day 2, and the scripture for this devotional is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 9. So, in the last video, I introduced Grandma's Kitchen. I introduced the introduction in the workbook, actually this devotional book, and there is a workbook as well. It is already posted in the group, so go check that out. And I have week 2. Now you can use these pages in your journals. And all the links will be in the group if you're interested. If you're interested in purchasing the printed book, it will, an actual physical book, it will be available for you on Amazon for long as soon as they release it. However, it is there for free. You can print it. You can take it to a print shop and have it printed. That's fine with me. It's all for personal use. If you print it, some you can print as is. With some of these, I can't remember if this is the one that I did. I printed it full to fit the screen, okay, because this book originally is like a 5x8. So I fit it to fit is the setting that I used to print this one. So it just depends on how big you want yours. If you want yours to look like mine, then you'll need to say fit and double side, okay? If you want it to be the original 5x8, then you will need to just leave it as is. Alright, so this is week 2. Here's the little sort of inspirational photo there. And then we have the little schedule. And so I didn't get to read day 1. I did read the instructions. So I'm going to read day 1. I'm going to back up a little bit. And then we've got our beautiful coloring page, daily reflection page, and my reflection if you want to write about it. And it says, I remember Grandma's kitchen with fondness. Above her stove hung a dish in the shape of a leaf with golden trim that read, "Friends are like the leaves, they come and go." I can't recall the rest of the poem, but every time I visited her stove, I recited those words. She would turn and smile at me, knowing that her silent message would stick with me and her prayers for me would be answered. Her smile conveyed assurance and confidence that her silent voice was heard, understood, and valuable. As I reflect on today's readings, I realize that love doesn't always have to be expressed verbally. My father always said, "I show you I love you." Words sometimes are just words. And he was right. He learned well from my grandmother in her kitchen. And that scripture from the first day of the second week was 1 John chapter 3, verse 17. Now let's get into day 2, where we are now. Week 2, day 2. As we all gathered in Grandma's house, there was a certain order in which we would eat. The men ate first, followed by the children and women. However, the babies ate while Grandma was cooking. You see, Grandma didn't just let anyone cook in her kitchen. Herself and my dad were the only people I ever saw cook in her kitchen. When my dad came back from the war, he stayed with his parents, so I assumed he knew his manners while in his mom's kitchen. She would also only allow certain people to wash dishes, usually my dad, my grandpa, my mom, and occasionally myself. Grandma was a plain and simple woman who loved more than we could even imagine. She raised her children during the Great Depression era and did everything she could to open her home up to her 2 sisters and their families to all live together while the men were at war. The women and children were left at home to provide for, care for, and finance the large families. My dad had 9 living siblings plus a cousin, and they were all raised together until the men came home from the war. It was a time of simplicity and necessity. As I reflect on today's reading, I see that even in the Bible, there were certain customs and an organized way of providing for the necessities of large families. Just as Jesus provided for the 5,000 people, there was a certain way of doing things that involved fairness, honesty, and humility in serving others. And our scriptures, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 9. But as touching brotherly love, ye need not that I write unto you, for ye selves are taught of God to love one another. And then we have the daily reflection if you want to do, some imagery, verse mapping. And then here is the reflection and the day. And then we'll move on throughout the rest of the week. Now, if you're wondering what these photos are, these are my family. In this photo for today, you can see me as a teenager. And these are my aunts and my mom and my cousins. A lot of these are done gone on to be home with the Lord. But all throughout here, these photos are my family. I shared these with you all so that you could see exactly what I was referring to. And you guessed it. You're wondering why this cover is there. Well, this is me. This is my grandmother and her apron and her flower. It must have been, I don't know if it was November. It looks like it was snowing outside. And this is my mom. And she was giving praise to the Lord. I don't know if it was because of the snow or what. I don't know if this was, this right here says, looked like it said 1982. So I'm not really for sure. I'm not for sure about the calendar. But I thought it was a really neat, wonderful, precious. It looks like Thanksgiving because of the colors that Grandma had on the table. So it was snowing. And it could be more Christmas. I don't know. But I thank the Lord for having these memories and having these photos, because now I can share them with everyone and how that I can relate those to my life, my Christian walk with the Lord. Have a wonderful and blessed day, everyone. I hope to see you in the next video.